Well, once I had the characters and the situation, then each story came of itself. So each story is a standalone story. And the 12 stories in each series are connected by the characters and by the setting. So by the time you finish 12 stories, you have a large story arc. But each story does not depend on the story that came before, nor does it require the story that came after it to complete its meaning. The characters are really characters that I've met. I've been teaching for over 25 years in a number of different countries. I've seen a lot of students in that time, and they're all different. And so it was relatively easy for me to keep in my mind one particular student and keep that voice in my mind as I wrote the story. And so once the situation was set, then I let the students talk. I let them go. Now, this doesn't mean anything went as far as I was concerned as a writer. Because I've been steeped in IB curriculum, and because the learner profiles are so very familiar to me, these grew out of the conversations and the situations. I didn't have to force anything. That's the beauty of it. Well, I wrote the story, and then the publisher decided that each story needed to have 13 illustrations. And my illustrators, most of them did not understand English. So what that required of me was to break the story and provide my own illustrations to guide the professional illustrators. And by the time I finished, I was able to draw a whole lot better than I was at the beginning. But what delighted me in working with 8 different illustrators was the imagination of these illustrators. Once they understood the story, usually through translation, and they had a look at what I was asking them to draw, then their imaginations enlarged that meaning and expanded the understanding of the story itself. And it was a real thrill for me to wait to see these illustrations from 3 or 4 of the illustrators in particular. I could hardly wait to see what they were going to do with my illustration and go beyond it and add a new dimension to the story. So the illustrations in these stories are utterly fabulous. I'm so happy that we had this kind of quality. No, I wish I did. And whenever I think I have a favorite story and I read it, then I want to read another story in that series, and then often it becomes my favorite, and it just doesn't work. I really enjoy reading again, believe it or not. I really enjoy reading again what these kids do in their situations. And you can imagine, after writing 72 of these stories, that I don't always remember what I've written. And so when I go back to read the story, very often it's a real pleasure. Write a lot. Write, and more write. And also conceive on 3x5 cards a situation. Look for reversals in your little plot. And my plots are little because most of the stories are around 1,000 words long. But it's important to have a reversal. The story will build, and just as you think that you know what's going to happen next, something else does. And that's important in a story, to keep the tension and to keep the interest.